We're building. We're growing. Still ready to deal with this world on its own terms.
Hey guys, Cutie here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing the 2018 San Diego Comic-Con trailer for Season 9 of The Walking Dead. With that being said, major warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to the Season 8 finale, and let's jump right into this. So this trailer is over 5 minutes long, and there's just so much to discuss. For now, let's go ahead and go through the trailer as we take a look at how all the communities and characters have evolved into a new beginning for Season 9, and then in the following days, I'm also planning on creating entire videos based around certain discussion topics. So, the trailer begins with light at the top of a staircase opening, and I believe that this is Rick opening the door to go down to Negan's cell. Now, the way that they revealed this in the comics was very well done and quite iconic in my opinion. They originally had Carl walk down the staircase at the end of the first issue of A New Beginning story arc, revealing that Negan is in a cell, but since Carl isn't around anymore, I suppose that Rick had to take his place. I was wondering if they were even going to show Negan in the cell or not during the trailers for Season 9 because it's such a fascinating reveal in the comics, but it makes sense that they would tease it considering that they already laid out everything involving Negan's fate pretty clear at the end of Season 8. There's a bunch of fun and interesting moments in store for Season 9 involving Negan in this cell, but I'll discuss that more in the future. Anyways, as Rick sits down in front of Negan's cell, we hear him say, "It's been a while since we had one of these talks." Now, as we'll come to see, Rick does occasionally go down and check up on him. These conversations may be far and few between, but when they happen, you'll want to listen up because this arc definitely has a lot of potential for both characters to evolve as a whole. And now that Rick Grimes may be killed off at some point in Season 9, we'll have to cherish whatever moments we get between them while we still can. Moving on, Rick continues to speak as we get some new glimpses at all the communities and characters in A New Beginning after the time skip. We first see a shot of the Barrington house, followed by Maggie overlooking the hilltop. We then see her holding a baby, and this is confirmed to be her baby. I'm not sure if she's going to name him Herschel Jr. or not, but that's what he was named in the comics. I guess we'll have to wait and see if the name stays the same. Maybe she'll name him Glenn, I'm not sure. Maggie has been pregnant since like Season 6, and it looks like she's finally had her baby during the time skip. It's uncertain how much time has passed, but if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere between 6 months and a year. Now, in the comics, it was actually a 4-year time skip, effectively growing up certain characters such as Carl and Sophia, along with aging other characters and giving them a new, more mature and evolved looking outfit or style. Rick got a beard, Jesus started tying his hair back, just to name a few. We also get a clip of what looks like them rebuilding a church at Alexandria, and they're probably using outlines and blueprints from that book called The Key, which was given to Maggie in Season 8 by Georgie from the Commonwealth. Well, I mean, it's not completely confirmed that she's from the Commonwealth, but we can pretty much assume that. Anyways, another shot shows Rick and Michonne arriving at the hilltop on horseback. We see a few different shots of them on the horses throughout the trailer, and we can see that they've expanded the farms to also be on the outside of the main hilltop wall as well. It is cool that they're expanding so many farms that they have to place some outside because they just don't know where to put it all, but if a zombie horde comes up and attacks the hilltop, then, I mean, that whole farm is going to get trampled, so maybe they'll eventually surround that with a wall as well, effectively creating like multiple different sectors of the hilltop. It'd be really interesting to see the hilltop continue to get expanded outwards around itself and possibly down the hill or something, but that's just a thought. Now, one clip shows crows sitting on crops outside of the sanctuary, followed by a clip of Michonne with Judith picking a tomato in front of the church being built. We also see them chopping down lumber, and that's what I like to see. I want to watch them obtain all the resources that they have, not just show that they magically collected everything off screen. There was a time skip, but I do like to see, like, I don't know, maybe a montage of everything that they've been doing, and that's exactly what this trailer is teasing. As I said, most of these clips in the trailer are mostly to show off how all the communities have evolved over this time skip, and I'm very happy with how things have seemed to turn out. As far as I can tell, they're not really being too stingy on the budget, at least for all the sets and everything. It looks great. I'm really excited for Season 9 after seeing all of this. Next up, we see Rick speaking to the Saviors at the Sanctuary, and he says, "We're all gonna pitch in and make sure the Sanctuary has what it needs so you can get back on your feet." The Savior responds saying, "Bless you, Rick Grimes," and they shake hands. This is an example of the Sanctuary turning into a normal community, along with how they're joining forces with all the other communities as equals. Rick is showing that he's more than happy to help them out, but we'll just have to wait and see if the Saviors return the favor or not down the road. Now, throughout the trailer, we see multiple shots of the main Walking Dead cast heading into DC and going into one of the main government buildings. This has been no secret, the behind-the-scenes photos released for these scenes have actually been the first glimpses of Season 9 that we ever saw. In the trailer, we see them trying to bring a carriage down the stairs, and I guess that's just another example of them taking a step back to rebuild civilization with medieval technology. They have a lot of horses and wagons considering that gas has degraded, and now they have a whole new set of challenges being so many years into the apocalypse as nature tries to take back over. No more scavenging for food or gas, you now need to grow your own crops or breed and create your own transportation in order to get around. So horses, wagons, that sort of thing. The SDCC panel goes more into talking about them having to restart civilization with medieval techniques, but this was definitely always a main idea in the comics after the time skip. In A New Beginning, they have created safe travel paths between the communities, stationing people to scout and make sure that roads and areas around the communities are clear. It seems as though they have set up camps along the way as well, one of which we see in this very trailer. We briefly see Jadis, or Anne I guess, walking alongside Tara, so I suppose that she's become fully civilized now, but I wonder how big of a role she'll play in this season. Hopefully she'll just become a background character who tries to live a normalized life after being in a junkyard for so long, but let me know what you guys think. Anyways, there's a main sign in the middle of this camp that shows a handful of communities in different directions. Interestingly enough, the Kingdom and the Hilltop both aren't on there, and instead we have HQ and Toledo. I don't think that those are new names for them. Apparently Toledo is a real place, so that could either be a brand new community or just possibly a nearby town that they've been sending people out to scavenge things from. Now as far as HQ goes, that's not just maybe like the main tent of the camp that they're in. Is that actually a new name for the Hilltop, or is that somewhere else? I don't get why they wouldn't just keep the name Hilltop and maybe just add a dash with HQ beside it, but I digress. My main questions here are, is the HQ the Hilltop, and why does the Kingdom not have a sign? Even if it is the same way as another community, they still could have shown it. Maybe I'm overthinking this, maybe there actually are other signs posted up elsewhere as well, but let's just move on. During the beginning of the trailer, Rick has been saying to Negan, "It wasn't that long ago, we were fighting just to stay alive, but it's not like that anymore. We're building, we're growing, still ready to deal with this world on its own terms." Negan asks Rick when he'll get to see the pretty picture that Rick is painting for him, and Rick responds by asking Negan if he'll ever get tired of acting like he's still in charge, which couldn't be closer to the truth, honestly.
No matter what happens, it's human nature to come together.
That's a real pretty picture you paint there, Rick. When do I get to see it?
Don't you ever get tired of acting like you're still in charge?
Do you?
It is pretty funny how they kind of both call each other out there, because they're not entirely wrong. We'll just have to wait and see how controlling Rick is in Season 9. Is he trying to boss everyone around, or is he taking a step back to let all the communities discuss everything equally? As a matter of fact, I'd like to bring back some sort of system like the council from Season 4 at the prison, where the main leaders of each community, or at least maybe important representatives, meet once a week or so to check up on how everyone is doing and update each other on progress made. Keeping with that topic of leadership, we next see Maggie talking to Rick. So if you remember back at the beginning of Season 8, Rick said that he'd be following Maggie after all of this is done. Apparently that didn't happen right after the war finished, but now that there's been a time skip, Maggie has matured a bit and she feels like she's ready to take the full leadership role.
And we were fighting the Saviors. You told me that soon you'd be the one following me. But you didn't, because I wasn't someone to follow. They it changes now.
So I already have 2 main prediction videos involving Rick and Maggie leading into Season 9, feel free to check those out, and that being said, I may actually create a 3rd updated video elaborating on the first 2 now that we not only have a bunch of Season 9 footage to speculate off of, but now that we know that both Maggie and Rick will possibly be leaving the show by the end of Season 9. How much will all this inner conflict between Maggie and Rick matter if they're both dead by the end of the season? Maybe this has to do with maybe who will take over if they both die, or maybe someone else will have to step in and lead instead of them, and then it won't even matter that they're dead because there's already a new leader, but I'm just not sure. I don't want their final episodes to be them bickering about politics. So next up we have Michonne talking to Maggie, and speaking of which, she's telling them that they need to set out some equal guidelines between communities as far as being civil with each other, along with creating different levels of punishment for any infractions.
We need to start talking about making some rules. An agreement between all the communities. Like, this is how we treat each other. And this is what happens when we don't.
The entire trailer teases a story arc involving Daryl versus some saviors. We can see Daryl fighting with a savior in the camp with all the tents, with the sign that we were talking about, and Carol eventually steps in to try and stop him. Daryl still knocks the guy down against a tree, and then he hits him in the face with a pot. I'm not saying the guy didn't deserve it maybe, but that's still not going to be okay in this new civilization that they're trying to create. Either Daryl is going to be a prime example that everyone must follow the rules and Daryl will get punished for it, or maybe Daryl acting out of line like this is what initially caused Maggie and Michonne to decide to create these guidelines in the first place. So next we hear Daryl saying that the small group that we had back in the beginning, we could do anything that was right, this just don't feel right, man. And then Rick responds with, it's on us, we'll figure out how to make it work. So Daryl doesn't seem too happy with what Rick has to say. Daryl apparently just wants to be jury, judge, and executioner, but he needs to understand that things can't go like that anymore. When they're all at home, at their communities, they need to enforce treating each other with respect, to follow their own rules as well as set a good example. They don't want to give the saviors an excuse to continue being assholes. They need to be better people than them and not stoop to their level. This is most likely Daryl speaking on how he doesn't want to follow these strict rules like anyone else, and that he wants the freedom to be able to do whatever he thinks is necessary. Daryl needs to learn how to be civil alongside everyone else. Although he does deserve recognition for being one of Rick's top men, he still has to be a role model and follow the rules just like everyone else. Now whatever that savior did, I'm sure he was being a dick, but Daryl's gonna have to learn to control his temper if they're gonna live alongside the other communities without drama. Everyone needs to live peacefully with each other and treat each other with respect, so that includes the saviors not acting like assholes anymore, as well as Daryl not knocking anyone out who looks at him wrong. Next up, as we get a bunch of clips of this camp with all the tents in that forest, we see quite a few familiar faces. First off is that Ezekiel and Carol cuddling by the campfire. Are they in a relationship now? What's the deal? Are they just friends? I mean, in the trailer we also see Daryl and Carol together, so what's the deal there? Is that just a bunch of friendship going on? Next up, there's Rick walking past Rosita actually handing a gun to some members of the Oceanside, as one appears to be signing them out with a clipboard. So just from that we know that they have a storage locker here and that they keep track of who takes out guns. Although this might just be a minor pit stop of a camp, it's still large enough that they have something like a weapons locker here. That's not portable, is it? I wonder how many of these camps they have. Probably at least one between each community, if I had to guess. Next up, there's Savior Arat and Savior Laura, along with Jerry, and it looks like he's now in a relationship with that wonderful woman from the kingdom. Oh, and then earlier we saw the place that they were chopping down lumber, and now we see that it's getting overrun with zombies. The thing is, now that we're getting into a new beginning, we have to be on the lookout every time we see a zombie herd, because we'll never know if there are whispers hidden amongst them. So, is this just a simple group of zombies that got attracted to their workspace because they were making a bunch of noise chopping down trees, or is this actually a larger threat? Next up, we see Carol talking to Rick, and she says, I just wanted to pull the trigger to end it before it began. And as she says this, we actually see Carol pointing a gun at a group of saviors, so I only assumed that that's what she was talking about. Now, Carol says this because it used to be a valid option, but it is taking the easy way out, along with the most inhumane way out. If someone like Morgan can be rehabilitated with Eastman, or even, let's say, Negan, then who's to say that a red shirt asshole savior can't be rehabilitated as well? So not only do we see Rick talking to Daryl, but he also talks to Carol as well, so he's probably trying to talk to everyone involved with all these altercations, get an idea of what happened, along with how to handle it. Also, I initially thought that Carol holding the gun to them was her stepping in with Daryl's situation, but apparently that's not true. Take a look at the clothes that she's wearing. Carol has the same white shirt and armor on when she tells Daryl to stop as she does when she's speaking to Rick and saying the dialogue to him. When she's actually holding the gun up to the Saviors, she has a different blue shirt on and no armor. So, did Carol have her own separate confrontation with a group of Saviors the day beforehand as well? Does this mean that her confrontation with the Saviors happened a day or two before Daryl even had his? And then we also see Rosita get in a fight with an entire group of people at the camp later on in the trailer, so I guess that this is all just further teasing that it's seemingly very difficult for people from all the communities to put up and live alongside some of the Saviors, particularly the ones from Alexandria. Now, keep in mind that not all Saviors are true assholes, but all you need is a few dickheads to stand up and make trouble for the rest of them to follow with group mentality. Also, later in the trailer we see Carol sneaking around with the same white shirt and armor, so we can assume that it's the night of the same day, and somehow one of the asshole Saviors ends up holding Carol hostage with a knife to her throat. Why? What was Carol doing creeping out there with a knife herself? Was she following this dude, maybe doing something up to no good, or was she honestly just jumped by him? And also, who's gonna step in to save the day? Hopefully Daryl? I'm not too sure, let me know what you guys think. But let's move on to the whole situation going on at the bridge that we see multiple times throughout the trailer. So we actually see the clips out of order as the trailer shows them rebuilding the bridge before it actually shows them finding the bridge broken. Anyways, a group of people who find the collapsed bridge seem to be Rick, Michonne, Maggie, among others as well. Assuming that this is a main road that they use to get between communities, they begin rebuilding the bridge immediately. Not only does this show their ability to fortify all nearby areas that they find necessary, the clip also shows a fight actually breaking out during the bridge building process too. So first off, we see Henry tripping someone with his monk stick. I'm not sure if he's the instigator of the whole thing, or maybe he's just standing up for himself or something. Also, I'm not sure if this fight happens before or after Daryl fights the guy in the forest camp, but we can see Daryl fighting him again, and then Aaron is actually taking on the guy who appears to be the same Savior that held a knife to Carol's throat. So, there are two main Savior assholes, one that Daryl hits with the pot, and the other one that holds a knife to Carol's throat. Angela Kang, the new showrunner, mentioned during the SDCC panel that there are two new Saviors called Jed and Justin that we've apparently seen in the trailer, so I'm going to have to assume that that's them, although I have no clue which one is which. Either way, it seems as though these guys will continuously cause disturbances between the communities, as they most likely mock or poke fun at people from other groups. Now, I want to talk about Maggie for a bit. At one point in the trailer, we see someone picking up a crowbar, and that's later revealed to be her, but what is she doing, and why is she swinging at someone? We see a clip of her walking out of the hilltop with a backpack, and Jesus is walking behind her. Is this possibly her taking a crowbar from the hilltop and leaving? I have no clue what she might be doing, but I guess Jesus has a few opinions about it. And then also near the end of the trailer, there appears to be a Maggie versus Gregory fight of some sort, and it looks like Gregory is holding a kitchen knife. Jesus, Gregory, how sloppy can you get? Okay, so we all know that Gregory has had the contemplation of killing Maggie before, but he's reflected on the idea as if he can't believe that he even considers it. Well, after the time skip, it seems as though his mindset has had time to ferment and grow with a more negative aspiration than it should have. Did they actually just spoil Gregory making an attempt on Maggie's life in the first season 9 trailer? This is a storyline from the comics, so I may create an entire video based around this where I also take examples from the comics in order to give a spoilery discussion and predict how it may be remixed onto the show, but needless to say, this won't be the only Gregory-Maggie conflict that will happen. I'm not too sure if they'll drag this on throughout the entire first half of season 9, or if they'll wrap it up relatively quickly. And now that they have that idea in the back of my head that Maggie will leave the show after 6 episodes, or at some point in season 9 in general, I'm sure hoping that Maggie isn't going to actually fall victim to one of Gregory's poorly planned assassination attempts. Next up, I want to discuss Michonne looking back at her sword, foreshadowing that she'll have to pick it up and use it once more. This isn't the first time that she's done something like this. She hung her sword up back in Season 5 when they first got to Alexandria, but she eventually needed to take it down and use it again to protect who she loves. I feel like she'll be slightly less rusty this time because I feel like everyone in A New Beginning will be ready for conflict when it happens. These characters are hardened over the years, and now they're currently thriving right now, so as Negan says, they think they have this shit on lockdown. We also see Michonne using her sword in slow motion on some zombies, and she's looking all badass and whatnot, but then at the end of the trailer we can also see her holding Lucille. Did she just use her as a weapon? What is she doing with Lucille that she just so happened to be carrying her when a zombie decides to attack her? Or even is she? Doesn't she look like she's inside a community? Why would a zombie be attacking her inside a community? We can see what looks like something being built behind her, so I can only assume that she's inside Alexandria, right? Regardless, even if she's outside the walls, what is she doing with Lucille? What the heck? Real quick, I wanted to point out this moment where Rick is actually kneeling at one side of the bridge with everyone running past him or like towards him to run past him, such as Eugene, Daryl, Carol, and more. Did Rick simply kill a zombie and maybe he's kneeling down to catch his breath, or is there more than meets the eye? Rick isn't bitten here, right? Well, what would cause everyone to rush to his aid? Mind you, they aren't rushing to him, but past him, but it does seem like they're concerned, so is there a huge horde about to walk across the bridge or something? Maybe it'll be too much weight and it'll collapse again, or maybe it's a horde of whispers, one of which might have just stabbed Rick in the gut or something. Definitely leave any theories for this scene in the comments below. Since everyone knows that this is Andrew Lincoln's final season playing as Rick, and yes, the actor did confirm it at SDCC, they may use that to their advantage to fake us out in the trailers, but we'll have to wait and see how tricky they get with the Season 9 trailers in the future. So in this trailer we see quite a lot of Rick versus Daryl drama, and I want you guys to leave your opinions about this because I will be talking about this more in the near future in its own video. I just want to know, like, is this going to be unnecessary filler? Will this feel natural? Will this feel forced? Like, I am not entirely against, you know, best friends fighting or brothers fighting or whatever because it does happen, but I just don't want it to waste screen time. Also, when we see that short clip of Eugene at the bridge, it appears that he's actually looking at Rick and Daryl fighting. You only see it for a moment, but that definitely looks like Daryl and Rick walking circles around each other, talking to each other, and they don't seem too happy. What happened here? Did Rick possibly break up the fight between Aaron, Daryl, and the two asshole saviors, Jed and Justin? And then finally, we have two big teasers to conclude this trailer. The first is a tease at a group of comic book characters usually referred to as a Magnus group since, well, the woman Magna is the leader. So this group has decided to join Rick's system of communities, and they bring an interesting dynamic to the table because they have the same suspicions of Rick that Rick had of Alexandria when he originally arrived there at Season 5, because mind you, he went through places like Terminus, so Alexandria seems too good to be true. Likewise, Magna feels that about Rick's area now, so we'll just have to wait and see what she's going to do about it. We see what looks like Magna creeping into Rick's house, which is directly from the comics, so without spoiling too much, I'll just say that I'm really excited for this new group of survivors, and I just hope that they aren't underused like they kind of were at some points during the comics. So are they going to get given original materials? I see that they kind of switched up the group a little bit. Leave any theories for these characters down below, and I might discuss them in their own video. So every year for the past few years, the Walking Dead Comic-Con trailers have had an extra tease of one singular situation, usually someone in trouble. In Season 6, it was Daryl getting captured by Dwight and Sherry. In Season 7, it was Tara getting hunted by the Oceanside, while in Season 8, it was slightly different, Carl's vision of a new beginning. For the new Season 9 SDCC trailer, we actually get a tease at the famous reveal of the Whispers. We see Eugene and Rosita hiding from a group of passing by zombies, but there's definitely more than meets the eye. If you listen in closely, you can hear what sounds like whispers. I'm not sure what they're saying, but it was also joked about by Robert Kirkman at the panel for Season 9. Now the thing is, in the comics, these were just two no-name soldiers, but in the show, it appears to be Eugene and Rosita. How will this affect them? Will they start thinking that they're going insane hearing zombies talk? Is this actually going to play out the same as it did in the comics? Now, I don't really want to get too much into that because I'm trying to not say anything that's happened in the comics that hasn't happened on the show, because I don't want to be too spoilery in that regard, but I'll be creating comic book discussion videos on Magna's group along with the Whisper tease, so leave any speculation or theories that you have in the comments below. I'll take a look at them and see if there's anything else that I may want to bring up and talk about. Oh, and speaking of Magna, real quick before I forget, we've seen Father Gabriel a few times throughout the trailer, and it looks like he's become blind in one eye due to the infection that he had from Season 8. We see him interviewing Magna's group along with possibly snooping in their tent. Also, on an unrelated note, I want to ask you guys again, what do you think of Jadis this season? Although I hope that she stays as a background character, she is linked to the helicopter, which we do see in the trailer, so hopefully we get some answers involving that. We also see her sneaking back into the junkyard at nighttime, but why? Leave any theories below and I'll discuss her in a future video. I tried not making this a crazy long video, but it ended up being pretty lengthy regardless. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, as it really helps me out more than you can imagine. Feel free to subscribe for more Walking Dead content in the near future, and if you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, consider checking out my Patreon as well. There's a bunch of different rewards involving the channel, such as a chance to directly influence the videos being produced, link in the description. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter, link also in the description. I'm fairly active on there as well, even when I'm not posting videos, and I'm always retweeting anything and everything I can, both involving the Walking Dead and Better Call Saul universe. Anyways, as always guys, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out!